Welcome, dear viewers. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment to support us. Now, get ready for tonight's story. My name is Caleb. For 12 years, I drove a school bus along the back roads that cut through Black Hollow Forest. The same route every morning. The same dented thermos beside me. More or less the same children in the seats behind me. When you do work like that long enough, you begin to believe there is nothing left that can surprise you. Fog, black ice, deer, drunks, even the occasional meth head bursting out of the brush like some half-crazed animal. You learn to jerk the wheel without losing your head. You learn to settle a crying child while taking a bend at 30 miles an hour. You learn to keep your mouth shut and keep going. But nothing could have prepared me for that thing. It was not a bear. It was not a man. It was not anything I had ever believed could move through those woods. I had never put any faith in werewolves, or in any of the creatures people swear they see out there every day, not until I came face to face with a monster on a Thursday morning in October of last year. More than a year has passed, and I still wake up drenched in sweat. Since then, I have lost almost everything. The county school board threw me under the damn bus, if you will excuse the wording. Parents said I had scarred their children. People called me a liar chasing attention, a burned-out drunk, even a threat to the public. My wife walked out on me. She said I was fixated on it. Said I needed help. I lost my job, my marriage, my home, and the small scrap of a reputation I had left in our part of West Virginia. All because I told the truth. So this is it. This is the last time I am going to tell it. Believe me or do not. I do not care anymore. I only want the story out before I drink myself into silence for good. It was the kind of morning where the cold feels damp. The sky was still black, and fog lay low between the trees. I pulled out of the depot around 6:30, like I always did, working my way through half a gallon of black coffee while the heater struggled awake. There were 17 children on my route, all of them elementary school age, from 1st through 5th grade. Little kids, mostly with backpacks too large for their small bodies, still half asleep when they climbed onto the bus. They lived scattered along a 30-mile loop through the back roads of Black Hollow Forest, in houses tucked down in hollows or set up on gravel hillsides far from any town. Everything was ordinary, until it was not. We had just collected the Harlow twins from their long dirt drive. They were arguing over a trading card, and I was already in no mood for it. About a mile farther on, I saw something crouched in the lane ahead, just beyond the dip where the road tightens near the old Warden trailhead. The fog had not lifted there. It hugged the blacktop like soaked cotton, turning in slow little swirls around the shape of whatever was in the road. I let off the gas. My first thought was that it had to be a bear, maybe feeding on a deer. That happens out there. But something was wrong. Badly wrong. The thing was down on all fours. Its chest was so low to the asphalt that its ribs brushed through the blood spreading underneath it. Its limbs were bent at sharp, impossible angles, and its head was buried so deep inside the dead deer that for a second it looked as if it was wearing the animal's body over its face. It had its back to the bus. Even from there, I could tell it was not built like anything I had ever seen. It was too lean to be a bear. Long-framed and sinewy, with ropes of hard muscle ridging strangely along its back and haunches. I could see the line of its spine through the heavy, coarse hair, rising and falling in a broken rhythm as it fed. Its shoulder blades worked under its coat with every ragged breath, pumping like parts of a machine ready to rip itself apart. The rhythm was wrong. Too fast. Uneven. Like it was overheating. Like it could not catch its breath, or simply did not care to. The whole creature seemed to throb with tension as the bus rolled closer, as if it was holding back the urge to leap up and run, or worse, to turn on us. For a moment, something old and animal closed around the back of my throat and locked it shut. A fear rooted so deep I had never felt anything like it before, and I have never felt anything like it since. I kept both hands fixed on the wheel while the bus crept forward, slow and steady, the tires grinding over damp gravel and wet leaves. I narrowed my eyes through the windshield, trying to understand what I was seeing. As we drew nearer, I got a clearer look at its fur, if fur is even the right word. It grew in ugly patches. Some places were thick and greasy. Other parts were so thinly covered that the gray-black skin underneath showed through completely. It looked almost burned, as though it had dragged itself out of a fire and brought the ash with it. The headlights and fog washed everything in pale gold and gray, and for 1 second I wondered whether my mind was making the whole thing up. Maybe it was only the mist. But no, the shape was real. It crouched there over that bloody heap in the road, completely unbothered, as if it had every right to be there. The kids behind me still had not seen it. I could hear them talking and laughing. A rapper crackled. Someone whispered about a sleepover. The Harlow twins were still fighting over that damn card. For those few seconds, it was only me and that thing, trapped in some silent, dreadful prelude. I did not want to frighten the children. Not yet, but my foot started easing toward the brake. I was maybe 20 feet away when the creature went stiff. It stopped feeding and lifted its head. It did not turn around. It only tightened every muscle in its body. The temperature inside the bus seemed to drop 10 degrees. Something primitive screamed at the back of my skull. I said nothing. I just stared harder. Then the thing snapped upright. Not slowly, not like a man standing from a crouch. It rose in one smooth, wrong motion. No animal I have ever seen moves that way. It towered there, easily 8 feet tall, maybe taller, covered in bristling fur, with limbs too long for its body. Its legs bowed like a dog's, but they were thick with muscle. The way those limbs bent made my skin crawl. It was as if the thing had too many joints, or no real joints at all. The front legs, if that is what they were, ended in long, twisted hands that held the carcass with what looked like fingers. Not paws. Not hooves. Fingers. Long fingers tipped with hooked claws. Its back was still turned, but the ears betrayed it. They twitched just a little, catching the low murmur of the tires and the old diesel engine. One ear angled sideways. Then both did. Then, with a slow and sickening grace, the creature began to turn its head. I froze. I stopped breathing. The bus was still coasting, but in that instant the rest of the world seemed to fall away. No wind. No engine noise. Only that deliberate rotation, slow enough to make it feel as if the thing wanted me to see every part of its face. The muscles in its neck shifted with an unnatural elegance. Vertebrae popped under the fur like knuckles cracking. It did not hurry. It measured the turn, stretching it out as though it knew exactly how long it would take to break me. That thing was not merely showing itself. It was unveiling itself, like a curtain being pulled back from something too monstrous to stay hidden. The face that came into view from the side looked as if it had crawled straight out of an ancient nightmare. The snout was long and narrow, but not like a wolf's. It sloped crookedly, almost as though it had been broken and healed wrong. A wolf's jaw has a kind of clean shape to it. This thing's mouth looked ruined. Its lips were torn in places and drawn back into a permanent snarl, exposing a graveyard of yellow, jutting teeth. Some were sharpened into points that did not match the others, as if its mouth had been assembled from pieces stolen from different animals and jammed together into one horrible grin. Others had snapped halfway down, leaving jagged stumps that must have hurt every time they sank into flesh. No two fangs were alike. The upper canines reached nearly to the base of its snout, while the lower ones stabbed upward past the lip line. I could see raw meat wedged between them, and what looked like strips of fur or sinew caught along the cracked edges beneath and behind the teeth. Its tongue lolled out obscenely, black and split, as if it had once been bitten in half and forced to heal that way. It flicked in and out as the creature lifted its head fully. But the worst part, the part that still follows me into sleep every night, was the eyes. They did not glow like they do in monster movies. They were wet, glossy, black, sunken, like polished river stones pulled out of mud. And there was something behind them. Not fear, not hunger, not instinct. Calculation. It was not just looking at me. It was seeing me, studying me, weighing me, deciding whether it should run or attack. That was the moment everything collapsed inside me. My stomach dropped like the floor had vanished underneath the seat. A shock went up my spine and lodged in my chest like ice water. It was not simple fear. It was recognition. My mind fought against it. It tried to explain it away, to call it a deformed bear or some kind of hallucination. But some ancient part of me knew better. It knew exactly what I was staring at. A werewolf. Plain and simple. Not the fairy tale kind. Not like the garbage in movies and romance novels. This was something raw and real, a thing of flesh, claws, teeth, and hunger. And it was looking straight at me. Something deep in my gut, some old animal instinct, took control. My conscious mind had not even finished processing the sight, but my body had already made the decision. I slammed my foot down on the brake with everything I had, hard enough to rattle the dashboard and make the bus groan like it had been punched in the chest. The tires screamed. Metal complained. The children behind me exploded into noise. Shrieks and yelps tore through the cabin. Several bodies hit the backs of the seats. A lunchbox flew forward and slapped against the windshield with a dull thud. One of the smaller children wailed as if he had been shot. The Harlow twins began shouting, one furious, the other terrified. I heard someone hit the floor, maybe two of them. The bus rocked as it shuddered to a complete stop. But I did not turn around. All I could do was stare through the glass, both hands fused to the wheel, chest heaving, my heart pounding so hard it felt ready to burst through my ribs. The thing still had not moved. Its eyes were still locked on mine. And now we were no longer rolling. We sat dead still, less than 30 feet from that nightmare, with nothing between us but a thin sheet of glass. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to reverse, to flee, to get us away. But whatever part of me remained in control just sat there frozen, trapped in the awful knowledge that I had brought myself and 17 children within arm's reach of a goddamn werewolf. Then the children began to see it, one after another. It started with a sharp gasp behind me, then a swelling tide of confused voices. Within seconds, it crashed into full panic. A girl screamed, high and raw, and that broke the dam. Children cried, shouted, scrambled. Some ducked behind the seats. Others rushed toward the back of the bus, tripping over one another as they tried to put as much distance as possible between themselves and that thing. The sound inside the bus was deafening. Pure chaos. I could not speak. I could not calm them. My mouth was open, but no words came out. The werewolf remained there, staring. And now every child on that bus had seen it. All I could do was sit there while my pulse hammered inside my skull, their terror filling the cabin, and that monster holding us in its patient, deliberate stillness. Then it moved toward the bus. Only a few steps. It did not charge. It did not retreat. It studied us like a predator inspecting unfamiliar prey. It leaned forward slightly and sniffed, nostrils flaring. Then it tilted its head, ears twitching, eyes still fixed on the windshield, as if trying to understand the shape of whatever was trapped inside. That broke something loose in me. Without a thought, without a plan, I shoved the bus into gear and drove the gas pedal to the floor. The engine gave a deep, strained groan, and the whole bus lurched forward like a frightened animal. The children screamed all over again. Some fell to the floor. Others clung to the seat backs. My hands trembled on the wheel, and my eyes stayed locked ahead. The werewolf flinched. It looked less afraid than surprised. It took one quick step back, then shot sideways into the underbrush with impossible speed, like smoke being pulled into the trees. 1 second it was there. The next, it was gone, swallowed by the forest as though it had never existed. But I did not trust it. As the bus roared forward, I kept glancing into the side mirror, expecting it to burst out and chase us at any moment. My hands stayed clamped around the wheel, my knuckles white, waiting for the sound of claws raking along metal. But it did not come after us. Instead, just as the bus cleared the bend and the carcass dropped behind us, I saw it step back out of the brush. It came out as if nothing had startled it at all. Casual. Almost calm. It padded straight back to the deer and tore into it in a frenzy, ripping and thrashing like it had only been interrupted halfway through a fast. That image is still with me. The face. The claws. The blood. Burned into the back of my skull. But the real nightmare began after that. When we finally pulled up in front of the school, the doors had not even opened before the children were pushing toward the front, desperate to escape. The moment the doors split apart, they poured down the steps and ran toward the building, crying, yelling, panicking. Some babbled about a monster. Others screamed the word werewolf again and again, like a siren. Teachers and staff stood stunned. Some rushed toward the children. Others froze as the chaos spilled out of the bus. The questions started almost immediately. The children were hysterical, traumatized, and of course they were. But I knew what was coming even before I parked the bus and stepped down. The school needed an explanation. Something simple. Something that could be written cleanly in a report. More than anything, they needed someone to blame. Naturally, that someone was me. They said I must have told the children something. That I had planted the story, frighten them, caused the panic. A few even accused me of staging some kind of Halloween prank. The school counselor looked at me like I was unstable. The principal, red-faced and sweating, told me I should have kept control. Kept calm. Kept everything normal. But how are you supposed to keep anything normal when you're staring into the face of something that should not exist? I tried to handle it carefully. I told them the children had seen a bear feeding on a deer. I said the fog and the panic made it worse. I said maybe a few of the younger girls had been frightened and the rest had caught the hysteria. I told the principal I had not said a word to them, that I'd kept my mouth shut the entire time. He did not believe me. He would not even pretend to. He looked at me the way I had looked at that werewolf, like I was the monster responsible for his public relations nightmare. He said all the children had told the same story. Said it made no sense for them to invent something that's strange on their own, unless someone had put the idea in their heads. I knew exactly what he meant. Once the children started saying werewolf, that became the problem. And to him, that was the explanation that fit best. Within 72 hours, I was suspended. Not long after, I was out of a job. No real hearing. No meaningful representation. Just a phone call, a letter delivered by courier, and silence. Then the local paper ran its piece, some half-baked article about an incident on a school bus and allegations of unprofessional conduct by a district employee. They did not print my name. They did not have to. Everyone knew who drove the backcountry route. Small town. Word spread faster than fire through dry pine. Of course, my wife heard about it. The so-called love of my life. The woman who had promised she would stand beside me through anything. Within a week of my firing, I was served on the porch of the house I had paid for. No conversation. No warning. Just papers inside an envelope and a weak, apologetic smile from the process server. My wife claimed I was mentally unwell. A danger to myself, to her, and to others. She said I had endangered children and invented stories about monsters in the woods. As if I had not spent 12 years leaving before dawn to pay for her damn handbags, her SUV, and those stupid decorative pillows that cost $70 apiece. A few months later, I sat in a courtroom while her lawyer described a version of me I barely recognized. Paranoid, unstable, emotionally volatile. My so-called mental health issues were displayed like I was a ticking bomb that had finally gone off. They brought up things I had never said, and so-called witnesses confirmed every word. She got the better half. The house. Most of the savings. Even the damn dog. I was gutted. Stripped clean like that deer in the road. And just like that, the life I had built over decades disappeared into the trees. Sometimes I think it would have been better if that thing had simply dragged me out of the bus and killed me on that damn road. At least that would have been quick. Instead, I have spent every day since rotting in the ruins of what my life used to be. People believe I invented all of it, but I will leave you with this. If you ever find yourself anywhere near Black Hollow Forest, especially after dark, keep your eyes on the road and your foot on the gas. Do not stop. Do not get out of the car. And for God's sake, if you see something that looks like it does not belong there, get the hell away. That thing is still out there. I know it is. And it is not a legend. It is not a campfire story. It is real.